Hey guys, I want to welcome you and let you know how great it is to have you here for the Greater Purpose Podcast.
What's up? Welcome to the Greater Purpose Podcast from the Cubs Room. Welcome to the Cubs Room. What do you think?
And then you start off all this.
Yeah, here we are. We're on.
Gotcha. Right now.
We're on right now.
Yeah.
See, sometimes I try to fool my guests and how
Glad to be here.
Yeah, no, glad to have you here. I'll introduce my guest in just a minute. Before I do that, make sure you go to the-greater-purpose.com and you wonder why I use a piece of paper instead of some fancy slide, which I could very easily do. But just think of the attention that this gets, right? That's a little more of an attention getter. So, but if you go on there, you can catch our previous 76 podcasts. We're on number 77. Thank you for your support out there. We appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, put some comments in there so we know what we're doing is important to you, and most importantly, important to the greater purpose that God is serving in our lives out there. So I am going to introduce my guest, and he's going to introduce himself, Darron Glenn. Glad to have you.
Yes, sir. Glad to be here.
So a lot of my guests I've known for years. Some of them I've known for a little bit of time, and some of them I meet for the first time when they come for the podcast, and that's you. So great, but I feel like I've known you forever already.
That's a beautiful thing.
It's great to have you here.
Yes,
so
sir.
Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about Darron Glenn?
Well, Darron Glenn, 44, born and raised here in Gaston County. I have a beautiful son, a wonderful wife of 18 years.
Awesome.
I am a gym owner. I own a supplement company, personal trainer. And the most important part, I am a man of God, been saved, baptized, born again, and just a man who's on this earth to serve his purpose and fulfill whatever it is that I'm to do here on earth before I pass on. So,
amen.
Simple things about me. Yeah. And I am glad to be here on the show.
And we're glad to have you here.
Yes,
so
sir.
As you can see, I don't do any workouts. So maybe I need a personal trainer. I don't know. Maybe that's why God put us together here. It's
that's
all right.
what I do.
I'm 61 years old, and I haven't played softball in 7 years. And just recently, our team put a team back together. When this airs, we will have been practicing for several weeks. I made it through the first practice.
You made it through.
I did. I did. So I didn't do any personal training.
Pass out, cramp up, none of that.
My heart was beating like a drum, but other than that, I was good. So
fine.
I am. I think I'm okay. So I'm not in terrible shape for 61.
Yeah,
but I'm not in your shape. So yeah.
Well, I'm not in my shape. I just look like I'm in.
Oh, is that okay?
Yeah, but I'm not in my shape.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So the guy that's out of shape is really the guy that's in shape.
We all trying to get in shape.
Right. Yeah.
Our whole life we're trying to get in shape.
Well, tell everybody the name of your gym. Go ahead, give a shout out for the gym.
We'll get to how I got the name, but my name, Hollywood is my nickname, but the gym is called Hollywood Fit.
Cool.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha. In Gastonia.
4491 Posterity Court.
Nice.
In Gaston County, right off New Hope on Stroop Road.
There you go. And so if you go there, you can stop looking like me and you can start looking like Darron. Okay, cool. All right. So Darron, tell us first off, now for some guys it's an epiphany, some guys it's a progression, some guys it's overnight, some guys it's, different things in their lives. But when did you recognize that it was important for you to start walking the godly walk that Jesus Christ wants you to walk?
I've been seeing it pretty much my whole life, like coming up, small family. My whole family stayed in the same neighborhood. Gotcha. We all grew up around each other and everything.
Family support.
So I got to watch my grandparents. I learned a lot from my grandparents. But the sad part about it is seeing it and being it is two different things. So my path started, I would say, at 19. And I'm going to tell you the reason why. I've been seeing it my whole life. But when you're young, you have to experience things for yourself.
Yeah.
You know how to do right, but yet you still do wrong. So I was a single man, had my own apartment, me and my cousin, and we used to throw parties all the time. So in saying that, I'm starting this off because in the spiritual walk, I want to go back to the beginning of the spiritual walk.
Yeah.
So in 1999, we threw a party and I had about 50 people that was over. We was drinking, smoking, and we was doing a lot of carrying on. At midnight, I realized I walked around the house and I looked at everybody that was in there and I looked at what we was doing and all the girls that was in there, and something just didn't fit right with my spirit. Everybody told me I was just drunk, I was high, that I need to go eat something, but I felt something wasn't right in my life. So the start of my spiritual walk was in 1999 when I got on my knees and I prayed right there in my room at the party that we threw.
Wow.
And at that party, I called on a good friend of mine, who was a pastor. And I said, I want you to come over to the house. We having a party, but I just need to talk to you because something don't feel right. And he said, what do you need? And I said, I need my brother right now, and I need you to get over here so you can pray with me. So he immediately said he got up, got his wife. They both drove to the house at 1 o'clock in the morning. I didn't say nothing to nobody in the house. So imagine my friend comes over who's a pastor,
walking in.
right?
Yeah.
And I come downstairs and everybody, the music stopped and everybody's like, hey man, what's going on? He said, well, Darron called me over and said he need to talk to me. And I said, y'all carry on. I just need to go to the room. So he came in the room and I said, I want to give my life to Christ.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
cool.
in 1999 at 2 o'clock in the morning, I actually said, I want to be saved.
Wow. That's cool.
And right then and there we prayed. And as it says, thou shalt confess with the mouth and believe in thy heart that Jesus Christ rose from the dead. And I did the confession, and he said, this is what I want you to do. It was on a Saturday night. And he said, with that confession, you are now saved. He said, but I want you to go to church tomorrow, and I want you to walk to that front, and I want you to tell your testimony and proclaim it. And I did it. And ever since then, I just knew this is the start of my spiritual walk, because that's why I said seeing it and knowing what to do is two different things. But when you do that confession and you actually born again is when it starts for you. So if we starting this podcast off,
I love it. That's great.
The right way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And ever since then, I knew what it took to be a godly man.
Well, and that's what we want to make sure that. Now, some women watch the podcast too. My wife, my awesome executive producer, is my wife.
Hey,
wife, Donna. So she,
hey, Donna.
So she, so there are some women who watch, but it's geared obviously toward men, and so we do want them to understand. Listen, it doesn't matter which background you had. We've had, some of us had rough backgrounds. Mine sounds similar to yours.
Yeah.
Some backgrounds never had to experience some of that stuff, but it's okay. God still has a purpose for you, no matter what the background was. When he wakes you up and he tells you to get straight and start flying right, that's the time to walk with him.
That's the time.
Yeah.
So as the question states, when did, you know, I realized that the importance of being a godly man. And that's the thing about
in the middle of a party.
In the middle of a party.
That's great.
And the reason why that's important of being a godly man, because to be a godly man means you have to go into territories and people have to see you when you're vulnerable.
Yeah.
And it takes a godly man to say in front of a whole bunch of sin to say, I'm going to walk upright.
Sure. No, absolutely.
So that's why I said it starts with the confession, and it starts with knowing when your journey begins.
That's awesome.
Because other people are taking note and watching.
That's cool. So obviously your pastor was an inspiration, but who, if you had to pick one man, let's say, who would be the one man that was inspirational, either up to that point, because somebody planted the seed. So who would be the one man you would point out to say, this is the guy that got me to that point?
That did it. So that man would be my grandfather, Darron Glenn. Okay. And my grandfather was an amazing man because he worked at Sundrop in Gastonia for 50 years.
Oh, wow.
One job. That's the only job he ever had for 50 years. And he worked at a time when blacks had to work in the back in 1957. So I have a picture in my gym when you walk in. you'll see my grandfather and three of his friends working in the back of Sundrop when it was the glass bottles and the pallets with old ran down shoes. He started that job at 15 years old.
Wow.
And I watched him. He helped raise me. And the reason why I seen that at a young age, because my father was always in the streets. My father was one of the biggest drug dealers at the time in Gaston County. So me seeing that and watching him, my father was never there. So my grandfather was always, I've looked at him as raising me.
Sure.
I looked at what a real man it takes to be a father, to be a grandfather, to be a husband.
Yeah.
And I seen that.
Work ethic.
His work ethics, because my grandfather would come get me and I spend a night. But on Saturday mornings, we had to get up and I had to till the garden. I had to pick things out the garden. I had to wash the cars. I had to cut the grass. I would have to do that before I could eat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my journey had to start.
Had to do some work.
He taught me you work and then you receive.
Wow.
When a lot of this generation wants to receive without work.
Just handing it out. Yep.
Yeah. So my grandfather, I seen that. And this is a man who didn't make a lot, but he gave more than what he made. He was always in the community. Yeah. He would always come get us. He would always take care of us. McDonald's to me back in the day was a treat.
Oh yeah.
I never got to eat McDonald's until the work was done.
Yeah.
So it wasn't
something special.
Yeah. It meant something. So the first godly man that I ever seen was grandfather.
Yeah.
Every Sunday morning we had to go to church.
Yep.
He made it a point that if I spent the night on the weekends, that I had to go to church. And not only just go to church, that afternoon when we driving back, he would ask me, "What did you learn today?"
Really? Yeah, making sure you were getting something out of it. Yeah, that's cool. Yep.
So it goes back to why I started with when I got saved and saying that knowing and doing is two different things. The seed was already planted.
Sure.
But it had to be watered.
Yeah.
And it harvested.
Cultivated and fertilized and everything else.
February 1999. There you go. On February the 8th. That is my sister's birthday, so I never forget.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Wow. So she knows that, I guess?
Yeah.
That's cool. That's pretty neat stuff. Okay, so having said that, since then, 1999, since then, you've been attempting to be the godly man that God wants you to be. We're not there yet. None of us are there. We're not there. We know that. But so how do you feel like you've gone from that point to now being most effective in planting the same seed that was planted in you prior to that, in other men and other boys specifically? So, yeah.
Yeah, and back to what he said, there will never be none of us perfect. It's only one perfect person.
Amen.
So we always got to remember that.
Yep.
But leading up to now, I feel like I've walked those same shoes as my grandfather. Being 44 now, I had a career in bodybuilding. I competed as a pro for 24 years. It made me go out and be active in the community.
Yeah.
I'm a big part of Dream Center Academy, which I mentor kids. I go to a lot of schools. I've been in the paper several times at guest speakings and talking to people. I consider my life as a walking testimony.
Amen.
And that's the thing about it is leading up to now, it's almost like a person that's saved. You don't have to walk around telling everybody you saved. If you save, your actions will always let somebody know where you stand in life.
Yeah.
So I look at the things that I've done in the community, the people that I've inspired, even looking at my son, it's been a blessing watching his life, because now me owning my gym, not only do I own it, my mom works for me, my son works for me,
cool.
my cousin works for me, and my sister's part-time.
Oh, nice.
And because of my grandfather, I look at it like I've always been that one to take care of people the same way that my grandfather took care of me.
Cool. Yeah.
So everything that I've seen and everything that I've done, I don't have to tell somebody. And this is the cool thing about it. I say Google me, because if you put my name in Google, it's
do that. Not now. Wait till the podcast.
If you put Darron Glenn bodybuilder in
Darron,
Glenn bodybuilder, pages will come up. So that's the cool thing about your life.
Yeah.
It's
a testimony.
It's a testimony. It's a walking testimony. So I tell people, you got a name, but that name also needs to leave a legacy.
Sure. Absolutely. Yep.
So everything that you do on earth should inspire someone else. And I use the word inspire, and I don't say motivate, because you can't motivate anybody. You can't motivate someone, you can only inspire them.
Okay.
You know, I can tell you about the goodness of the Lord, and I can tell you to be inspired to get to know him, but I can't motivate you because you have to be motivated self before I can motivate you. So that's just something I tell people.
Well, and they say actions speak louder than words. That's one saying, but they're also, I've heard it said that, preach the gospel and use words when you have to. So you don't always have to use words. Your walk, your actions, your talk is always a testimony to who you are and who God is. So that's cool. Very neat.
Because we are from his image. So we're created in his image. So at the end of the day, his walk and his journey spoke his life, which our walk and our journey should do the same.
So you're building back into lives in a lot of different ways. That's cool. So I'm going to Google him when we get done. So I'm going to, there you go. We'll put it in we'll try to put it in the link in the comments. So, all right. So we're going to talk about some topics here. We threw some topics out. I send them out usually before somebody comes and just ask, if they've got some, men who've inspired them, women who've inspired them, heroes of the faith, or Bible favorites, books, scriptures, however they want to go. And we do a mix and match. So this is the part where my executive producer said, "Hey, let them go. Don't just don't keep them in a box. Let them go because God, God's not in a box.
No,
well, we try to keep him in a box.
Yeah.
So God's outside the box, so we can do that too. So you go ahead and you start and you go, and wherever you end is where you end. How do you like that?
I got it.
How's that?
So I'm gonna keep this short and sweet because I don't want to lose you. And like I said, a man that's lived a life of unrighteousness and a just man has a lot to talk about. The men who inspired me, grandfather, I just spoke on him. My mentor, Johnny Stewart, was who helped me in bodybuilding. Jimmy Hart, my uncle Jimmy Hart owns Hart's Automotive in Gaston County. That is my uncle.
I know. So no kidding. So I know your cousin. He's been on here, Walter.
Yep.
Yeah. Walter Hart. Yep.
So that's my family. Tyrone Felder, which was a pro bodybuilder. He was the chairman of Georgia Bodybuilding.
Cool.
He's been a mentor. Don Long, which was my coach that helped me turn pro from Jacksonville, has been an inspiration to me. But this is something I'm going to tell you that most people would never tell you, and this is my life and this is my story. My father was absent from me since I was 8. He was locked up. He did a total of 27 years of being locked up behind bars. So I spent a lot of my life seeing him locked up behind bars. But I'm gonna flip the script and I'm going to tell you this. My father, even though he was locked up for 27 years, he still raised me. And most people say, well, you always giving your father respect, but he was never in your life. And I tell people, it's right and wrong in everything in life, and it's right and wrong in everything that you do. But my father being locked up and me spending all of those Sundays eating Sunday dinners, with him after church and going to prison, going to see him and seeing that. I always say my father has been an inspiration to me because, for one, he showed me what not to do.
Yeah,
right?
Sure, absolutely.
And a lot of people say I don't have nothing to do with my father. He was never in my life. I don't have nothing to do with my mother. She was never in my life. Well, it was a purpose for that.
Yeah.
He has a purpose. You have a purpose. And I say my father inspired me because I never wanted my son to feel the same way that I felt of going to see him. And it hurts. It sucks. But you can't hold resentment against a man that brought you on this earth, right or wrong. If God forgives 7 times, 7 times, 7 times, 7 times, he forgives you forever. You have to learn to forgive. And
plus, he turns the bad for good. For the righteous man.
And the thing about it, I can't change him. It's an old saying that my grandmother used to say, you can't re-raise a man once he's at a certain age. And I wish women would understand that. A lot of women think that you can fix a man and you can make him better. You can't fix him. You can't re-raise him. But one thing about my father is, they always say you got to switch roles. It's like I became the father and he became the son.
Right.
Because it's also the way my life is. I can also teach him things that he didn't know because he spent a lot of time behind bars. I teach him forgiveness. I teach him that regardless if you haven't been in my life, you still are a part of me, and I have to accept that.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, that's cool.
So that's why I'm able to yeah, it's frustrating. He frustrates me, but life frustrates you.
Yeah.
Life is a series of problems.
Yeah.
It's how you finish this problem to prepare yourself for the next problem. So my father has been an inspiration to me, even though he hasn't been in my life, because he had a purpose, and his purpose was to bring me and my two sisters into this world.
Yeah, there you
So,
go. Yeah.
saying that, those are the inspirational men that's been in my life. Women, grandma,
You got a bunch, I'm sure. We all do. Yeah.
we all got a bunch, but I'm gonna tell you, it's that one, and that's that mama.
Okay.
I'm gonna start with my mama first, because I just told you the story of my father.
Yeah.
But it takes a strong mother to raise 3 kids single on her own.
Sure.
And my mama packed our clothes up and moved us in the middle of the night while my father wasn't there.
Wow.
So you got to understand, that's my father, but my mother got tired of going through what she went through.
Right.
And this is a woman who don't ask nobody for nothing.
And she's protecting you guys too.
And she protect us. And so the blessing is this. Fast forward, my mother raised all 3 of us on her own, and still since this day, I wish she would find somebody, but she's still single and she's still to herself, because she said her focus is on her kids and her grandbabies.
Wow. There you go.
But that's how much hurt sometimes a man can do to a woman. But the most inspirational thing is, I've always told my mama I want to take care of her and be there for her. So when she was working those part-time jobs and they was treating her bad, she made a decision to tell me, she was like, I'm quitting that and I'm coming to help you at your gym.
Oh, wow.
Because she said, you need the help, and I'd rather be there helping you.
That's cool.
And it puts me in a position that I'm able to take care of my mama without somebody else taking care of her.
There you go. Yeah.
So you talk about inspiration, and when we at work,
who's the boss, you or her?
That's the funny thing about it is, when we at work, my mama said, you the boss.
Wow.
I'm your mama.
Wow.
So you have to learn to separate the two.
That's cool. Good for her.
And the thing about it is, imagine having to go to your mother because she messed up.
Oh.
And you happen to tell her that she did something wrong.
Right.
At the same time, that's your mama. And this is what she says. You tell me what you have to tell me because you write my check. So you talking about humbling.
Wow.
The woman that had me is now an employee of mine in my company.
Wow. Yeah.
But she teaches me to separate the two.
Sure. Yeah, teaching you lessons even now.
So that's a huge lesson.
That's cool.
And the next one would be my wife. Because in 2008, as we all know, it was a recession and we lost everything, right? So we both worked at the same place. We lost our jobs. We was on tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 unemployment. Wow. Most people remember that. It went from 450 to 300 to 100 and something.
Yeah.
And, I went to her and I was like, babe, we're going to have to lose the house. We're going to have to lose everything. And I said, I can't take care of you the way that I want to take care of you. So I'm like, why don't you just move on and find somebody who can take care of you?
You were giving up on it.
Yeah, because I love her enough to say I didn't want to hinder her from her dreams and whatever she wanted. Right. And she sit there and she said, I will be with you if we was in a cardboard box.
Wow. That's cool.
In the woods.
Wow.
And here it is, like, I can't do anything for her, right? And she believed in me enough to stick with me all through that side.
Cool.
So my wife inspired me so much to get myself together that, and I don't recommend this to other family, to any husbands or anything. This is just something I did.
Yeah.
So I made a promise with my wife that when I got myself together, that I would take care of her, that she wouldn't have to worry about nothing. And I would say for the last 4 to 5 years, if you put a gun to my wife's head and ask her what the light bill was, the mortgage is, any bill, she can't tell you.
Oh, you're doing all
because I take care of everything at the house.
Good for you.
And all I want her to do is focus on taking care of the bills that she want to take care of, like Netflix and insurance and all that stuff. Yeah. And like I said, I don't recommend that to everybody, but this is something that I told myself that I'm going to do is show my wife how much I appreciate her.
That's cool. Yeah.
So she inspires me because she don't give me any problems. She don't bother me, but it makes me go to work every day to take care of her.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I would say the next person that inspired me would be my grandmother, because everything that she did of dealing with raising us and my grandfather and
in their relationship and everything.
Yeah,
sure.
in their relationship.
Cool.
So
Yep.
I hope I didn't take too long.
Oh, no, that's great.
But
that's cool.
I just
Yeah.
want you to understand,
awesome.
like your life has to be a walking testimony,
Absolutely.
and the people who inspired you
are important,
extremely important. But when you see me, I feel you see everybody. That had a hand on me.
Exactly.
So,
Yep. Well, and that's part of the greater purpose, is because some of us may come out of backgrounds where we just have one or two. Some of us may come out of backgrounds where we have a dozen people or more. And all of those people, every single one of them is important, negative and positive. They teach us something. So that's cool. That's how you showed that. That's pretty neat. I like that. Good deal.
Appreciate that.
Do you want to share what else do you want to share with us? You got any heroes of the faith or any Bible favorites?
Well, I would say my Bible favorites is, let's get back to that. I would say Moses. To me, I look at, we are Moses. And the reason why I say that is God gave him the greatest journey, the greatest goal, job that he had to do was take those 10 commandments to the top of the hill. And that was his command. It was Jesus' commandment to him that's what he wanted. And he had to go through troubled waters. He had to go through everything.
Yeah.
And he had to take those pillars and present them to the world the way that God asked him to.
Yeah.
And he had to have faith. And he had to have the strongest faith that God was going to protect him. You got to think about that. To me, it's a lot of religions is out there, and that's good. But those 10 commandments mean something.
Sure.
You can put every religion up. You can say that I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm this. Those 10 commandments, I feel like if you follow those, that's what God asked us to do.
Yeah.
But he gave Moses the hardest job.
The foundation.
To carry those pillars.
Oh, yeah.
So now why you say we are Moses? Because every day you wake up, you are Moses.
Yeah.
You go through everything on this earth that's thrown at you, only to leave your house to make it back home to your family every single day. You can get killed by a car. You can get killed by an animal. You can get killed by a person. You can have a stroke. You can have a heart attack. You can be in a storm. You can be in a tornado. Everything that Moses had to go through, we go through every single day on earth. Right? Yeah. But faith is things unseen and unheard, but you have to have belief. So we have to have that same faith that Moses had every day to get up and leave our house and go to work, to come home to our significant others every single day.
Keep plugging away.
And plug away.
Yep.
And we have to keep those same 10 commandments.
Right.
And the way I see the Bible speaks highly of your neighbor. Your neighbor. Your neighbor is not your neighbor. Your neighbor is every single person that's on earth. Our neighbors. We all created from God, right? So my thing is, Moses to me is the most inspirational person, because he had the greatest goal that he had to do was those 10 commandments is what we're supposed to live off of. So one of those 10 commandments never made it.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah. Well, that was the foundation.
That
so
was
it is the
foundation.
foundation. Yeah. Of course, they want to throw it out of our government, and they want to throw it out of our schools, and they'll do all that stuff, which is proven to be bad. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
But if you live a godly life, you should never be afraid of death, because you know that this is temporarily passing through for our purpose to go to eternity.
Yeah. So if you're New Testament only, it's wrong. You're wrong. you gotta go back to the Old Testament. You gotta go back to the foundation.
If you go back to the foundation, right?
Yep.
There's old sermons and old songs that say you build your house on a solid foundation, not on sinking sands.
Yeah.
You have to start with a flat surface first. Then you have to make sure it's even.
Yeah.
And then you have to make sure it's solid.
Yeah.
And then the walls have to be solid. Yeah. So if you can't go back to the beginning,
everything falls apart.
You got to ask yourself, who are you?
Yeah.
You can't speak on the Bible and take parts out.
Yeah.
So Moses to me was the most inspirational person to me, as far as being in the Bible.
Yep.
And the women had the hardest jobs also.
Yeah.
I mean, Mary is a beast.
Right? Yeah.
She had to overcome a whole lot of things and been talked about and everything to have to carry one of the greatest persons ever to live on earth, you know. So
amazing women of the Bible.
Amazing women of Ruth, Ada, talking about Mary, both Marys. You can get into a lot of that.
Sure.
but women carried a lot.
Yeah, and they can inspire everyone, obviously, but inspire men to be better men.
Yeah. And Eve, you can even put Eve in there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Eves out here. There's a lot of people conceived of led astray. Because you think about it, Eve believed in the first serpent more than she believed in God.
Yeah.
Because she went with the serpent. She believed him because God said, don't do this. And the serpent said, go ahead and do it. So she went against God's commandments to do it.
One of those negative inspirations that God turns to positive.
Turns to positive. So you got to think it's always serpents. So you got to be strong.
Yeah. All right. So what about anything else? You want to share anything specifically after that?
Well,
because we're gonna go to the sports story in just a minute. But before we do that, and I'm sure you got a million of those. I don't know how you pick one out, but what else? Yeah.
Well, on the heroes, that was pretty much topping on the heroes, and one of the things on the agenda was the favorite books. Man, I'm gonna tell you, it's a lot of favorite books.
The whole book,
but I'm gonna say Job.
The whole book. Oh wait, that's stuck to it. Sorry.
Job is amazing because Job.
Oh wow, yeah.
That man had put to the test. Yeah. And his wife said, "Why don't you curse God and die?" He went through everything.
And he even questioned God. I mean, he and that was okay. I mean, God slapped him upside the head, but he still let him question him. So,
I mean, and the thing about it, people, that's the whole thing of, can you question God? Do you question God? Yeah, you can talk to him. You can question him.
Yeah.
You don't
Moses did, David did,
everybody
Job did. Sure.
Now, I don't know if you're gonna get an answer.
No.
It ain't like you pick up the phone. You may. Your answer may come 5 years from now.
You'll get an answer. You may just not like the answer you get.
Yeah, and so those two, I would say Moses and Job. And then when it says your favorite Psalm, me being a Freemason, and one of the ones that I stand by the most is Psalms 133. Behold, how great and how beautiful it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. That can go a long way because we are all brothers in Christ, right? Yep. So that's what that means. Behold, to dwell together in unity. And unity is something that we don't have anymore, right? Yep. So my thing is, if we can unify as brothers, we can overcome a lot of these things that's going on in earth. So that is a powerful verse. It's Psalms 133. And I love it. And my favorite is Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ. All things that strengthen me.
I used to have one of my wristbands used to have that, but I've changed it. So that one's not on there anymore. So, but he still does.
That verse right there, if you walk into my office, that's the first thing you see on my board, because that starts everything. I can do all things, not some, not a little bit. It says all things. Through Jesus Christ who strengthens me. So that's hitting on the topics of his agenda that says favorite Bible verses, book, and all of that stuff.
Yeah, so if you're in a difficult situation, if you're dealing with something you don't quite know how to get through, God can get you through it. He will get you through it.
He'll get you through it.
And now you, like I said, you may not like the answer. You may not like the specific situation. You may not like the doctor's prognosis at the time. But God will still strengthen you to get through.
He will strengthen you.
Sure.
And like I said, I'll revert back to Psalms 133. Behold, how good and how pleasant it is. Because you got to think of how good and pleasant it is for brothers to dwell together in unity. So
well, and I completely agree. And Christians, we're supposed to keep each other accountable, and that's supposed to be done. But I think there are a lot of times there are people calling each other out for the color of the carpet, or they don't like the lighting, or things that really make absolutely no sense because they're creating animosities. And I'm not talking about, discussions about faith that, people disagree on and they're okay with that. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about trying to pound somebody down. That doesn't fit that scripture.
It don't. And another thing people got to realize too is something that Grandma told me. If you are a Christian and you claim to be a Christian, but if you're not on your studies as a Christian, do not go head to head with somebody who's not a Christian. And a lot of people don't understand this. You're not in a place to fight a spiritual battle. That's God's place, because a person who's not a believer can have you thinking the same way they think against what you believe if you're not strong in faith.
You got to read this.
You have to read this. You got to stay in your book. Now, the thing about it is, that's strong. And I want to say that on this podcast because I had a conversation with a client and she said that her uncle was an atheist, right? Mm-hmm. Well, she got out of her studies in the Bible and he got to talking to her. She said for a moment, he had her questioning her faith.
Wow. Yeah.
That's strong.
Yeah. Yep. You got to stay in the word.
So you got to stay in the word. Are we going to be able to quote every verse word for word? No. But you have the understanding. As long as you.
Right. Well, and Shannon Williams, I'm looking at his book right there, but he was in here. He's been here a couple times. And there you go. Revelation Unlocked.
Free promo.
Yeah. There you go. Right. Yeah. He did a regular podcast and he did one on that. So, and by the way, they have a great, documentary out. They went homeless for 5 days. It's crazy. I saw the first two and then the third one should be out now by the time this is out, but just amazing. So, but having said that, we were sitting here just discussing, it was not on the podcast, but I was talking about the fact that I'm not good at quoting scripture. He said, but you know the Bible. I said, well, yeah, I know the Bible. He said, you don't have to quote the scripture. Just tell me the story. And he said, tell me the story of the woman at the well. And so I did. I described the story exactly the way it is biblically. And it was, he's like, you got it. See, so you don't have to listen. Not everybody memorizes everything.
It's a lot.
There's people, listen, we're sitting in a Cubs room and I've had people say, well, you know how many home runs Ryan Sandberg hit in 1984. And I'm like, nope. Or I know they won the world in 2016, but to look up the score, I got to go back and look up the score. So I don't retain that kind of stuff.
It's hard.
But I know the story, I know it happened, and I know where it fits biblically and scripturally. So that's all you got to know. But you don't get that unless you're studying and you've read and studied again and read again. Yeah. So, and nowadays with technology, apps and everything's on your phone and your tablets and stuff like that. There's no excuse for not knowing God's word.
But I'm always say what Grandma said. Reading the Bible on this and the actual Bible is two different things.
I agree.
There's something about that literature. That's different than reading the book. Something.
I agree. So, and it's not magical; it's spiritual. So there you go. Cool. All right. Neat stuff. Okay. So anything else you want to share before we get into the last segment here? That's great.
I talk all day.
I know, right? No, that's good.
Yeah,
he promised me ahead of time he was going to go
because I told him, he gave me the layout and I just glanced at it and I was like,
there we go.
I have to talk from the heart.
That's good. I like that. That's awesome. So, all right. Now, before we get to your sports story, though, I had to present you with your parting gifts. Did you know you get parting gifts?
I just found out.
Now you know.
I just found out.
Now you know. So the first parting gift you get is a bottle of Mr. Bill's and Bill Ward Photography hand sanitizer. Now, the reason for that is because it's a shameless plug for my business.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. So, Mr.
You
Bill
paid for it.
That's right. I paid for it, and that's yours now.
Thank you.
So, yeah. And you will also receive I will autograph this. This is an official. This is me. My official baseball card. I'll autograph that. Yours is number 77.
That's awesome.
And my producer, Stephen Wright, said that if I autograph it, that it'll be worth exactly what it's worth when you walk out of here. Whatever that means. So I'll autograph that and give it to you before you leave. And the most exciting thing, I have a box of Lego superheroes. And to my executive producer, Donna, my awesome and wonderful, beautiful wife, Donna. I'm sorry I haven't gone through the box yet. She told me, because when you order a box of these things, they throw in heroes, anti-heroes,
whatever's in there.
So I apologize if we get some bad guys in here. That's so. But so you're gonna pick a Lego super like Thanos. Thanos is not a hero, so we're gonna take him out of there. So I don't know if you're familiar with Marvel and DC and all that. Good. Okay, so you're going to pick a superhero, but you say to yourself, I know right now in your mind you're saying, why a Lego superhero, right? You're saying that to yourself, aren't you?
I'm trying to figure it out.
And I'm going to tell you because science, technology, engineering, and math. So engineering, it's tied into the engineering because you have to construct this, not here, but when you get home. you get to put it together. So that's engineering. But also because we believe that the men that come through here on the Greater Purpose podcast, in God's eyes, are superheroes. So you get to choose a superhero. So we've got all kinds. We have male and female. We've got Loki. Now my executive producer said Loki is kind of a hero. We'll leave him there. There's Hulk. Dude, I'm not gonna pick for you. But okay, there's Doctor Strange. Now the Joker is in here. He's not a hero. The Joker is not a hero. He's gone. I don't know who that is. Batman, Green Lantern. There's the raccoon, Rocky the raccoon from Guardians of the Galaxy. There's Captain Marvel. Now you know Captain Marvel is now a female, but now I kept the females in here
just in case
because my executive producer said, "Well, you know, you guys have superheroes in your life who are females, so you could pick one of those too."
And it don't matter.
Then we have there's Nick Fury. There's Captain America.
He got him.
So who you want?
But I'm gonna go with the Hulk.
I knew it. See, I was right.
But it's a reason to.
Oh, okay. Not just because you're built like
no, it has nothing to do with being big.
Okay.
Yeah. So the reason why I'm gonna go with Hulk is because Hulk can control his emotions, and he knows when to be that person and when not to be that person. Yeah. So and this is the thing. This is a misconception about life. When people see somebody who's big, he wants to be big because it's an ego. He wants to be big because I tell people I got big because that was all the stress that I let out in the gym.
Wow.
That allowed me to have a place to go to let off my frustrations and anger.
Yeah.
It just so happened that I got big, and the guy who owned the gym introduced me to bodybuilding.
Cool.
So when I think about the Hulk was one of those guys when you needed him, he became big because the strength that he had, he needed to be able to overtake the bad guy.
That's cool.
But the regular Hulk was a very humbling and nice guy to be around.
The doctor,
you know,
Dr. Banner.
So you got to understand, if you look at the Hulk movie, he was just a regular person, but he had to become that person to take out an even badder person.
Cool.
And you can't do that in your physical self. So you have to be able to channel that energy to become something sometimes that you're not for the moment.
That's cool.
So that's why I chose the Hulk, not because of the muscle.
I like that. Yeah. Because
and it's an illusion.
Gotcha. So apparently I didn't have enough anger in my life to let it out in the gym. No, I'm just kidding. So all right. So tell us your sports story now. Because you're in the Cubs room, if you're wondering why we do a sports story, it's because we're in the Cubs room. You got to do a sport. It doesn't have to be Cubs related.
Well, it's not going to be Cubs related.
Of course not.
No disrespect.
No, it's okay.
my greatest sports story is myself.
Cool.
Pro bodybuilder.
Yeah.
Google me. This is what happened. In 2009, I trained my butt off to become Mr. Junior USA. Right? When I got in the gym, it was to get off the streets and to save my life. I got in the gym because I tried to sell drugs. I tried to become that person that I seen back in the day. Right. So I get in the gym and the guy sees me. And when I first walked in the gym, that's how I got the name Hollywood, because I used to look at muscle magazines in the grocery store, and I said, that's how they look. So I put a do-rag on, a tank top on, Daisy Duke shorts on, boots on, put baby oil on. And I went to the gym for the first time, and a guy named Ryan, never forget, Ryan named me Hollywood. He looked at me, and he came in, and he was like, "Hey, what you doing?" I said, "I come to sign up for a gym membership." And he was like, "Bro, you look like you just worked out." And I said, "I looked in the magazine, and this is how they look." So that's how I'm coming. He fell out. He said, "I'm gonna go get the owner," and he came back. And then he
laughed at you, huh?
He said, "From now on, we're going to call you Hollywood."
Oh, wow.
Because ain't nobody ever came in the gym to sign up looking like they already worked out before they got here.
That's cool.
So that's how the name Hollywood stuck to me.
Love it.
So the guy said, if you do a show, I'll pay for it. Eventually, I got good at it. So when, my trainer Johnny at the time said, we're going to do a show, I won. Went to the Eastern Seaboard, I won.
Cool.
So that qualified me for a junior show. So we went to the Junior Nationals, which you don't turn pro, but it's a prestige win that validates you.
Sure.
So I won the 2009 Mr. Junior USA, and here I am, thought I was the hottest dude. I won the Junior USA's. Here I am ready to rock and roll and get ready to go to the next level, right? So the Muscle magazines, Muscle Development, Flex magazine, and all these magazines started saying, who you think is going to be top 5 in the national show? Mm-hmm. The national show is in Vegas. Well, the USA's is in Vegas, and the nationals is in Miami at the Jackie Gleason Theater. Mm-hmm. So we trained to get ready to go to the USA's, right? So here I am winning the Junior USA's. I go to the next level. I didn't even place top 15.
Wow. Humbling.
So you're talking about humbling. So then I'm like, what happened? I thought, they predicted me that I'm going to be top 5 out of 15 people. I didn't even finish in the 15th. Wow. I finished. So I went back to the drawing board, and it was humbling. So then at the time, my coach Johnny introduced me to Don. So he wanted Don to take me to the next level, right? Because Don was one of the top trainers that was out there at the time. So I get with Don, right? So we went to the national level, and I got second, right? Not bad, right? So then we go to the next show. I got second.
Wow. Second.
So I'm like, okay, I got second twice in a row. I got second at USA, second national. I work in a warehouse, 100-degree warehouse in Charlotte, and I have no sponsors. And now we're getting ready for another show, right? So now I'm going and doing these interviews. The guys I'm competing against all got contracts. I have no sponsors. I have no contract, no nothing. And it's like, okay, I'm in a 100-degree warehouse watching these guys I'm competing against get flown out to New York to train at Bear Francis Gym for promos. I'm watching another guy get flown out to California to train with Jay Cutler, who was one of the top guys at the time.
I recognize that name.
And Ryan and Ronnie Colvin and all these. And I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, working in a warehouse. So I get to the show. A good friend of mine, Tamer, we competing against each other. Tamer beats me. I get second again.
Oh, wow.
So at this point, you're talking about humbling, right?
Yeah.
So Tamer won his class. At the time, you had to get top 2 to go pro out of 7 weight classes: bantamweight, lightweight, middleweight, light heavyweight, heavyweight, super heavyweight. The only winners to turn pro is the top 2 from each class. Yeah. No, out of everybody. Excuse me.
No.
It's only 2 people go pro out of 7 classes, right?
Gotcha.
So next thing you know, the next year is like, all right, so once you get to this level, they said the first place gets to turn pro.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay. So I'm backstage, we do it, and I'm thinking that you got to win top 2 out of the whole thing. And they like, no, it's it's the win from each class. So we go out, Tamer beats me. Tamer turns pro.
Yeah.
And at this point, most people will probably just give up, saying the judges is just, they don't like me. They're frustrated with me. Reason why I feel like I have a great sports story, because perseverance. I never gave up.
There you go. Yeah.
The next morning, I was back in the gym training for the next year.
Oh, wow.
Because at this point, I can only compete once a year.
Right.
I can't go backwards, because now I'm the number one dude to chase going into the next year.
Yeah.
So all of these guys who beat me, remember I got second, they went pro. I got second, they went pro. So now they won their class. Right. So I went back to the drawing board, came back to Gastonia Gold's gym, trained, and they started interviewing me. And they like, oh, you're the next dude to win and all this stuff. So we trained. It's speed it up. It's competition time. I trained my butt off. A year later, my coach was in Jacksonville, Florida. It's 6 hours away from Charlotte. Me and my wife went once a month, 6 hours there, trained with my coach, jumped in the car and drove 6 hours back. Every single month I did this because I wanted to make sure I win. The day of the show, we get there and we going into the finals and everything. So I wanted to turn pro on my birthday. That was one of my goals. I said I wanted to turn pro on my birthday. The show was July the 28th, right? So, it's a time difference.
Yeah.
4 hours in Vegas. So my coach was like, all right, we got the win. I went in, did what I had to do. So now I'm a pro, right? That wasn't my goal. My goal was to be the best in the United States. I wanted to beat everybody. Right. There was 800 people in that show. There was over 23 something people in my class. And it's almost 400, 300 something guys out of that 800 trying to turn pro.
Yeah.
my coach was like, well, I know you could go pro, but I don't think you can win the whole show. You got to take out the super heavyweight. I'm 191. He's 260 something pounds. And I told my coach this. I said, I can show you better than I can tell you. So I went out there and I put on one of the best performances that I've ever done. So the time zone is now back home. It's after midnight. It's my birthday.
Okay. Right.
You know, I'm pro, but now, you know, it's a 4-hour difference. So at 12:30, it's
4:30 here.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying? It's 8:30.
Yeah.
4 hours. Yeah, it's 4 hours difference.
Right. Yeah.
We went out there on that stage and I gave my heart to that and we went on the line. And the announcer said, and the overall winner is from Gastonia, North Carolina, Darron Glenn.
Woo.
And I won the Mr. USA title.
Nice.
Google it.
Nice.
I won the Mr. USA title by 1 point decision.
Wow. 1 point. That's cool.
And I won that Mr. USA title. And I did it.
That's cool.
But perseverance. The guy's name was Stephen Frazier. So my coach runs through the aisle. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier.
That's cool.
And
nice
he said,
in there,
you did it.
Yeah, nice. That's cool.
So I usually tell when I'm telling the story, and I'm kind of getting emotional about it because people say, what's my purpose? What am I here for? Everything that I did in my life, and now I'm actually tearing up. At 19, when I got saved, I put on paper, I said, this right here. And I'm gonna show Bill, and I can show you because my life is real. If Bill's signal acts right, I don't know if Bill's signal acts right.
Yeah, we're kind of far away from it.
When I said I was going to start off on this journey, I'm showing him it's a Polaroid. It's not coming up, but I did a Polaroid when I started this journey.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I did this Polaroid, and I set out to say I was going to be one of the #1 bodybuilders that's out there, right?
Yeah.
So I put on paper and I put my goals out there, and I said I wanted to own a gym. I accomplished it. I wanted to be a pro bodybuilder. I accomplished it. I wanted to promote bodybuilding shows. I was a co-promoter of the Charlotte Cup that's in Charlotte for 15 years, and I did it. And I said that I wanted to be the #1 bodybuilder in the United States, and I did it.
Yeah.
And
oh wow.
And
that's intimidating.
That was
for me.
The Flex magazine.
That's cool.
That did it right there.
That is really
and
cool.
I accomplished it.
Nice.
So what I tell people is this: I never knew nothing else. It's nothing else that I ever wanted to do.
Cool.
But do what I said I was going to do. So my life, I showed everybody from the time I got saved to my goals. I never gave up on me.
Yep. God doesn't give up on you, and don't you
give up on yourself. Because from Gastonia, North Carolina, I went to Vegas and I beat all the guys across the United States by 1 point, and I became Mr. USA.
Man, that's awesome.
And I'm Mr. Junior USA.
Yeah.
Also. Yeah. So that's why I said not to be long-winded. I just want you to understand is never give up on yourself because God never gave up on you.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that on your deathbed, it takes people that long before they give their life to Christ. And people say, well, why did he wait so long to give his life to Christ? Because you don't never know. It's a purpose, but don't never give up.
Right.
But always remember this. Before on that deathbed, somebody give their life to Christ. You remember on the cross, the guy told Jesus his story, and Jesus said, you will be with me in paradise. On that moment, he gave his life to Christ.
Yep.
So why?
Literally right before.
So right before. So next time, think about that when you tell somebody. Well, he waited to the last minute to give us. Sometimes it takes people longer than others.
But don't give up on your goals.
Don't give up on your goals.
Walk the godly walk.
Yep.
And God takes care of the rest.
Yep. See, I told that man, just let me talk.
Yeah. And there we went. That was great. No, that's a great story though. Mr. USA. So we've had a couple minor league baseball players. We've had some others that were in, didn't quite make it to the NFL, but now officially we have a Mr. USA on the podcast. That's cool. That's awesome. That's great. Well, listen, I appreciate you being here. You. I appreciate you guys watching, listening. Please share this. Make sure you get it out there. If you have any comments, any suggestions you have, we definitely want those. Thank you for watching the Greater Purpose Podcast. Darron, thank you for being on here. Look forward to hearing great and mighty things from your walk with God. So thank you guys. Have a great one. Appreciate it. God bless you.